Somewhere on the plains of Africa, there is an animal carrying 100 times more cells than you do. Every single one of those cells can mutate. Every single one of those cells can become cancerous. And yet this animal almost never gets cancer. It should be riddled with tumors. Instead, it walks away from a threat that kills so many of us. But the real reason is far stranger than luck. You are looking at an elephant. 6 tons of muscle, bone, and skin. Trillions of cells dividing, day after day, year after year. Every division is a chance for a mistake. A single copying error in the DNA. A single cell that forgets how to stop growing. That is what cancer is at its core. A cell that breaks the rules. Now think about the math. If cancer risk simply scaled with body size, elephants should be dying of tumors constantly. More cells means more divisions. More divisions means more chances for something to go wrong. A mouse has a tiny fraction of an elephant's cells, so an elephant should have a cancer rate dramatically higher than a mouse's. Does it? No. And this contradiction has a name. In 1977, a British epidemiologist named Richard Peto noticed something strange. Cancer rates do not scale with body size across species the way they should. Large, long-lived animals, like whales and elephants, get cancer far less often than the math predicts. Small, short-lived animals, like mice, get it more. This mismatch became known as Peto's paradox, and for decades, nobody could fully explain why. You might expect the answer to involve something exotic, a special diet, a slower metabolism. But the real explanation lives inside the elephant's genome, written into its DNA millions of years ago. Humans carry 2 copies of a gene called TP53. You can think of TP53 as a cellular security guard. When a cell's DNA gets damaged, TP53 checks the damage. If it is minor, TP53 pauses the cell and lets it repair itself. If the damage is too severe, TP53 forces that cell to self-destruct before it can turn cancerous. 2 copies of this guard patrol your body. Elephants carry 20 copies. In 2015, a team led by Dr. Joshua Schiffman, a pediatric oncologist at the University of Utah, along with researchers including Carlo Maley at Arizona State University, published a study in the Journal of the American Medical Association confirming this. They tested elephant blood cells by exposing them to radiation, the same kind of damage that triggers cancer. The elephant cells responded by self-destructing at more than twice the rate of human cells. The elephant's body was not trying to repair the damage. It was eliminating it entirely. Think about what that means. Where your cells might gamble on repair, an elephant's cells simply remove the risk. A damaged cell does not get a second chance. It is deleted before it can cause a problem, sacrificed for the safety of the trillions of cells around it. This is not a passive form of luck. This is an aggressive, built-in defense system, repeated 20 times over. But the story does not stop with TP53. In 2018, a researcher named Vincent Lynch, then at the University of Chicago, discovered something else buried in the elephant genome. A gene that had been dead in most mammals for tens of millions of years had somehow come back to life in elephants. Scientists call it a zombie gene. Its name is LIF6. In most mammals, LIF6 is a broken, non-functional leftover, genetic debris from evolution's past. But in elephants, this gene was resurrected. Lynch's team found that LIF6 works alongside TP53. When a cell is dangerously damaged, TP53 activates LIF6, and LIF6 produces a protein that punches holes directly into the cell's mitochondria, its energy source. Without functioning mitochondria, the damaged cell dies almost immediately. So elephants do not have just one extra layer of cancer defense. They have at least two, working together, each reinforcing the other. 20 copies of a damage detector, plus a resurrected self-destruct trigger that used to be silent. Millions of years of evolution stacked layer upon layer, refining the system generation after generation. Why would evolution build something this elaborate? Here is where the story becomes less about cancer and more about size itself. Elephants did not start out enormous. Their ancestors were closer to the size of a modern pig. Over roughly 60 million years, elephant ancestors grew larger and larger, because size came with real advantages. Fewer predators could threaten them. They could reach food other animals could not. Larger females could carry and protect their young more effectively. But size is a trade-off. More cells, more cell divisions, more opportunities for cancer to take hold. If evolution had not solved this problem, elephants could never have grown as large as they did. Every animal that tried to get bigger without a stronger cancer defense would have been more likely to die of tumors before it could reproduce. Only the lineages that evolved better protection could survive long enough at that size to pass on their genes. In other words, the extra TP53 copies and the resurrected LIF6 gene were not a lucky accident that happened to help elephants avoid cancer. They were very likely the reason elephants were able to become elephants at all. Without this cellular security system, gigantism itself would not have been survivable. This pattern shows up elsewhere too. Whales, the largest animals to ever exist, appear to have evolved their own separate solutions to the same problem. Different genetic tweaks that seem to serve a similar purpose. Naked mole rats, tiny but remarkably long-lived and almost cancer-free, have their own unrelated trick involving a sugar compound in their tissue that prevents cells from overcrowding. Different species, different genetic tools, same underlying challenge, solved again and again by evolution, wherever massive size or extreme longevity demanded it. So what does any of this have to do with you? Human cancer research has spent decades trying to strengthen the very system elephants perfected naturally. Dr. Schiffman's team has already explored whether a synthetic version of the elephant's extra TP53 activity could be used in humans, particularly in children born with Li-Fraumeni syndrome, a rare condition where a person inherits only one working copy of TP53 instead of two, and faces an extremely high lifetime risk of cancer as a result. Early laboratory research has tested whether elephant-like TP53 activity, introduced into human or mouse cells, could push damaged cells towards self-destruction the same way it does in elephants. It is still early, it is still experimental, but the idea itself is remarkable. An enormous, slow-moving herbivore might hold part of the blueprint for treating one of humanity's oldest medical enemies. Look at the elephant again. Its size was never really about strength or dominance. It was made possible by an invisible war happening inside every one of its cells. A war fought and mostly won by DNA sequences that most animals lost millions of years ago. 20 guards where you have two. A dead gene brought back from the grave to serve as an emergency trigger. The next time you see an elephant standing quietly in a nature documentary, remember what is actually happening beneath that gray skin. Trillions of cells are dividing in near silence, and an ancient genetic security system, older than the elephant itself in some of its parts, is deciding, cell by cell, which ones are allowed to live. You looked at an animal that should be riddled with tumors by every mathematical expectation. Instead, you found one of nature's most successful defenses against cancer, hidden in plain sight, inside the largest land animal on Earth.